What's up, y'all? And I want to talk about this right here because this just proves that this country is run by corporations, the wealthy 1% who don't give a damn about American citizens. They only care about their pockets. So I remember a long time. I remember when if you got like granddads, uncles in your family, they always say, "Man, boy, when I was a young man, when I was a young boy, a dollar I could buy so much for a dollar. I could buy a lot of stuff for a dollar, man." Not today. You can't buy nothing with a dollar today. But check this out. The dollar has lost more than 96% of its value since 1913. Yeah, your dollar worth 4 cents today. You know, it is still one of the most stable and widely used currencies in the world. The loss in value primarily reflects the cumulative impact of inflation over more than a century. Americans have to work. Okay, I'll put that. All right. So it's not worth 4 cents, but they can't buy you nothing. But it says it lost 96% of its value since 1913. That's crazy. Because the dollar so if you compare the dollar, the 1913 dollar to today's dollar, that would be around $35 right here. This means that $1 in 1913 has the equivalent purchasing power of around $30 to $35 today. That's crazy. A loaf of bread costs around 5 cents. A gallon of milk, 32 cents. A new car could cost around $500. Okay. So I asked a question. This is Chat GPT. I asked a question. I made the statement, Americans have to work harder for that $1 today. Yes, Americans today do have to work harder for that same $1 compared to past generations. And this is due to several factors. See, this really ticked me off, man. That have changed the economic landscape since 1913. The loss of the dollar's purchasing power due to inflation is a big part of the reason, but there are other contributing factors. Inflation and purchasing power. 1. As mentioned, inflation has caused the value of the dollar to decrease over time, while wages have generally increased. They often haven't kept pace with the rising cost of living, meaning that people have to work harder or longer to afford the same goods and services. Yep, you got to work a lot harder for that same dollar. That's decreasing the value, y'all. Wage stagnation. For many Americans, wage growth has not kept up with their increase in productivity or the cost of living. Adjusted for inflation, the real wages for many workers have remained stagnant since the 70s. Now that's crazy, since the 70s. Even though the economy has grown and worker productivity has increased, this results in more people having to work more hours or take on additional jobs to maintain their standard of living. Right. I've stated now you got to work 2.5 jobs to get by these days. Used to be you can get by with one job. Or you got to have like 2 or 3 people living in a house. Some of y'all got to have roommates. It's crazy out here. I don't have a roommate, but I gotta work long hours. You know what I'm saying? I can't work a regular job. I gotta get out here and hustle. Rising costs of essential goods and services. Over the past several decades, the cost of essentials like housing, healthcare, and education has skyrocketed. Housing costs in particular have risen much faster than wages, making it harder for many people to afford rent or buy homes. The cost of higher education and medical care have also outpaced wage growth, putting financial strain on households. But they don't care. These corporations that's paying us don't care. And the government should have been stepped in and demanded that they pay a decent and affordable wage and adjust the cost of living. Shift in job types. The shift from a manufacturing-based economy to a service and knowledge-based economy has also had an impact. Manufacturing jobs often paid well and provided good benefits, but many of those jobs have been outsourced or replaced by automation. Many of the jobs available today, especially in the service sector, often offer lower wages and fewer benefits, making it more difficult for workers to get ahead financially. Ain't that the truth? Increasing debt. More Americans today are in debt, whether from student loans, mortgages, or credit cards. This adds to the financial burden as a portion of their income goes toward paying down debt rather than covering everyday expenses or saving for the future. Productivity gains not reflected in wages. Since the 70s, productivity, the amount of goods and services produced per hour of work, has increased significantly, but wages have not risen at the same rate. This has led to a growing income inequality where the wealth generated by increased productivity is concentrated in the hands of business owners and investors rather than being shared with workers. And that, my friend, is the problem with America. Big, greedy corporations paying slave wages, and the government let them get away with it. Or they outsource to poor countries, paying them poor wages, and these greedy bastards keep all the money to themselves. That's why the 1%. That's why they say the 1% has most of the wealth. Higher workloads and hours. Many workers today are working longer hours or multiple jobs to make ends meet. In the past, a single income household was often sufficient to support a family, but now it is common for both adults in a household to work often full-time to cover basic expenses. While technological advancements and economic growth have improved certain aspects of life, the reality is that many Americans do have to work harder today for their money than previous generations did. The combination of wage stagnation, rising costs, and economic shifts has made it more challenging for the average worker to achieve the same financial security that was more attainable in the past. We're not living better than our parents, than our grandparents. We got to work a lot harder. Population growth can So I said. So I came up with. I came up with the question. So is population growth to blame? Is it because we got more people now than we ever had before? Rising population. Is that why? Wages are so bad. ChatGPT said population growth can be a contributing factor to economic pressures, but it's not the sole or even the primary reason why many Americans have to work harder today. The situation is more complex and involves a combination of economic, social, and political factors. Here's how population growth fits into the larger picture. Population growth and resource competition. Increased demand for resources. Increased demand for resources. As the population grows, there is naturally more competition for resources like housing, education, and jobs. In areas where the population has surged, such as major cities, this increased demand can drive up prices, especially for housing. As a result, people have to work harder just to afford basic needs. Strain on infrastructure. A growing population puts more pressure on infrastructure such as transportation systems, healthcare, and schools. Governments often struggle to keep up with these demands, which can lead to higher costs for individuals. Economic shifts and wage stagnation. Wages not keeping pace. While the population has increased, wage growth for many workers has not kept up with inflation or the cost of living. This stagnation is more related to economic policies, globalization, and the structure of the labor market than to population size itself. Corporations have reaped the benefits of increased productivity, but the wealth has not been distributed evenly among workers, contributing to income inequality. There it is, people. Greedy corporations, the 1% is keeping the money for themselves. They're not sharing the wealth, and that's the result of us working harder and harder, running harder on the hamster wheel, and getting less and less. This is pathetic. People are tired. People are tired of busting their ass and only living paycheck to paycheck. People are spending money on. People are going in debt at a tremendous rate with credit cards, with loans, defaulting on their cards, on their loans. More and more, the credit scores are going down. A lot of us can't afford, a decent house. Can't afford a house, period. It's getting real crazy out here. Globalization and outsourcing. The rise of globalization has shifted many manufacturing jobs overseas to lower rate wage countries. This has led to job losses or lower wages in some sectors within the U.S. and has contributed to the overall stagnation of wages, making it harder for people to get ahead financially. This is more related to economic policies than population growth. So it is not really about a rise in population. This has nothing to do with population. This has more to do with it may have a little to do with population, but it has more to do with the policies of our economy. Has more to do with corporations. It has more to do with the job sector and how they're running it and how they treat the American citizens. And then they letting these immigrants in that don't supposed to be over here, making it harder and harder on U.S. citizens that have been here their whole lives. And this is really pissing me off. It really makes me question why we need to stop working for this weak ass dollar. We gotta stop working hard for this weak ass dollar, man. That's devaluing more and more every year. You can buy less and less with it every year. And we busting our butt for something that's going down in value. Come on.